I'm ready to go. Next question. All right, so far we talked about who, we've talked about what, and we talked about why. Then we talked about how. So if you're paying attention at home, there's only 2 questions left. One of those is where. So we can talk about where in a couple different senses in terms of podcasting. Number 1 is, where are you going to park your audio? And this is the first time, I think, in this course so far that I've gotten really technical. I'm going to get kind of technical, not too technical. In terms of where you park your audio, here's how a podcast feed works. You put your audio somewhere. It's called a hosting company. Anytime a user, a potential listener, goes to a platform, a listening platform, like Spotify or like iHeartRadio or TuneIn or Apple Podcasts, they go there and they find your podcast and they want to find an episode, they want to pull an episode. They're going to pull that episode from the hosting company. So a hosting company is like a place in the cloud that hosts your MP3s. It holds the MP3s. When a listener goes to a podcast player and they want to click play on it, that player routes them through your hosting company. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I'm talking to a camera right now. So where are you going to park your audio? I've got a tech guide that comes free with this course that lists a couple different hosting companies. And you can go from no cost to low cost to higher cost. And keep in mind, but you get what you pay for. So no cost options would be things like Anchor or SoundCloud. What you get when you pay for a service is great customer support. I'm good at creating audio. I'm kind of okay at creating an RSS feed and a website, but that's where a podcast hosting company comes in. The one I suggest, the one that's on the tech guide, is called Blubrry. And a couple reasons I like them: they're dedicated 100% for podcasters, by podcasters, and their customer support. I don't know if can I give an endorsement? I can, okay. I've been only hosting with Blubrry since I started my podcast in 2015. I think I've had 3 major problems. Something happened with my audio or my RSS feed, and all 3 times within 24 hours, someone, a real human, got on a Zoom call with me from Blubrry and said, we're gonna get this taken care of. And they walked me through every step. So I didn't need to become a podcast hosting expert because they are a podcast hosting expert. So you can have a no-cost hosting option, like an Anchor, or a some-cost hosting option. I think Blubrry's introductory package is something like $20 a month. But I like it because I sleep really well at night, knowing if I'm relying on this audio getting to listeners, if I'm putting all this effort into it, I want to make sure it can get there. And that's what you get with a hosting company. So that's one aspect of Aware. Second aspect of Aware is, where are you going to share this information? How are you going to make sure people know about it? We're going to get into creating content in a different episode later on in this course. We're going to get really nitty-gritty and really micro, but I want to stick in the macro here, which is, what platforms are you on socially? Where is your podcast going to exist? People could accidentally find your podcast by going to one of these listening platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but where else are you going to exist? Start thinking about these things. What platforms? Are you going to create a dedicated page on Facebook? Are you going to create an Instagram account? How about a Twitter feed? Start to think about these things. What I want you thinking is, what platforms do you like interacting on right now? What platforms do you hate interacting on right now? And I would have you start to think about why you like and why you dislike certain platforms. Personally, I stick to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I found that that's where my audience likes to receive information. That's where they like to converse. That's where they like to be social. So that's where I exist. I don't exist on platforms that I don't like to use. There's some that I don't get into. So for that matter, I don't have any accounts there whatsoever. I don't exist. I let my audience know that this is where I exist. So those are the 2 wheres I want you thinking about in terms of, where is your podcast audio going to be? Hosting company. And then where are you going to place that audio in terms of platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or TuneIn? Keep in mind, most of those platforms where users can find and listen to you, you have to submit your feed. You have to tell those apps like Spotify and Apple Podcasts that you exist. You've got to submit to them, hey, here's my URL for my feed, which you get from your hosting company. And that way they'll know you submit your URL from your hosting company to all of these user-facing platforms, the Spotifys, the Apple Podcasts of the world. And that way, when they look for you and they want that audio, they can get it. And on the other flip side of where, start to think about where your podcast is going to exist. What social platforms are you going to communicate in both ways with your audience? So that is covering the where question. That's the lesson of the day. Start to think about how you're going to answer your wheres.